Dyna ni am ddechrau heno wrth gwrando a ddau o bechgyn bach, Dylan a William Gill, ac ar ôl hynny ei tad Nathan Gill. We will start by hearing from Dylan and William Gill, after which we will hear from their father, Nathan Gill. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.
Croeso I bawb ond dod i'r rando ar dad fi, Nathan Gill. Pan o'n i'n fach a pobl yn gofyn, beth wyt ti yn bod pan dyfod di? O'n i'n atab, fel dad. Pan o'n i'n dipyn bach yna, atab oedd, fel dad, yn gweithio UKIP, mae gan dad feddwl y byd o Ynys Mon ac eisiau helpu pawb yma fod yn well allan. Welcome everybody, and thanks for coming to listen to my dad, Nathan Gill. When I was little, and people asked me what I wanted to be, when I grew up, I said I wanted to be a doctor, like my dad. When I got a little older, I said I wanted to work for UKIP, like my dad. I know how much it hurts and want to help this country.
UKIP wants to cut waste in government at all levels and use that money to improve our health service in Wales and to improve my and my friends' education. We are very proud that our dad is standing as a candidate for UKIP in this election. Even though we cannot wait till this election is over and our family can finally go on a holiday. Mae o'n poeni am y llywodraeth a'r gwastraff sydd yna, sa'n ni'n gallu cael gwaith ysgol I fi a'n ffrindiau a pobl yn Ynys Mon yn cael gwaith gwasanaeth iechyd heb y gwastraff na. Da ni'n gallu fod yn dad yn geisydd I UKIP yn yr etholiad. Ond I dweud y gwir, rwy balch pan fydd yr etholiad drosodd I ni gael mynd ar ei gwyliau.
Diolch yn fawr, boys, and diolch yn fawr pawb. You know, as a politician, you need your family behind you, and you need a good family behind you as well. It's a remorseless job, let me tell you, and it takes many hours, but it's something that I feel is very important. And I'm grateful to my family for the support that they've given to me. And I'm grateful to each of you for coming here tonight. Now, I'm under no illusions. I do know that you didn't actually come here to see me. You've all come to see me. And I should probably point out that my mum, who sat in the front row, didn't come to see me either. So I won't take up too much of your time, because it's quite warm in here. But I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce myself and to explain a little bit about myself and what it is that I hope to achieve for Anglesey. I was brought up on the island. We moved here in the early 80s. We moved to a small farm in Townhall. And I wasn't swearing, by the way, for the English people who don't. That's a real place. I'm one of 8. And it was a very small farm, and so after a year or so, we kind of outgrew it, and we had to move to a bigger place, so we moved to Menai Bridge. And so I went to Ysgol David Hughes, and when I completed my education at Ysgol David Hughes, I went to Coleg Menai. After completing my A-levels, I moved to Hull to take over the family business. Now, we had a business in Hull which was a residential home for the elderly. At the time that I took over, we had 35 employees. I built that business up. We had a day centre for the elderly, and we also created a domiciliary care company. Now that's basically where we provide carers in the homes of the elderly and people who are infirm, to allow them to stay in their own homes for as long as is possible. Towards the end, before we sold the business, we were employing 180 people. Now, I have 5 sisters, and I thought I was pretty prepared, but believe me, nothing prepared me for working with 180 women. It was quite a job. And also, nothing really prepared me for being a slave to the government, because that's what I basically became. I was collecting the taxes for them, I was filling in health and safety forms and cost reports, and my employees, I was paying them to basically do red tape and paperwork. And guess what? The people that we were actually there to look after, we were only able to spend 15 minutes with them because we were too busy doing all of this red tape. Well, we were approached by an American company, and it had got to the point where we just couldn't wait to get out, because that's how we felt about running our baby, our dream. It had become just a huge slog. While I was in Hull, I married my wife Janet, and we had 2 children. Also, while I was in Hull, it was during the European elections. I was driving around the city, and I saw lots of these huge billboards which said, "Say no." And it was a ring of stars, the European Union flag. And I was quite intrigued by these billboards. What did they mean? Say no. What's wrong with the EU? I was born in 1973. And for those of you who are old enough to remember, that's when Britain joined what was then called the Common Market. So my education, my formative years, have been nothing but being a part of the EU, as we now call it, and being brought up and told how great this was and how lucky we were that Britain was part of such a wonderful thing. I kept on seeing this bloke on Question Time called Nigel Farage. And there was something about him. And I'm sure many of you here tonight feel that same way. I just knew that what he was saying was true. And so I looked into what he was saying. And the more I looked into it, the more frustrated and upset and annoyed I got. Because I realised that my country, our country, which my great-grandfather fought for, and my grandfathers fought for, was no longer our country. It had changed and been changed beyond recognition, and changed in a way that none of us had voted for, had asked for, and been consulted about. After selling the family business, we moved back to Anglesey. We made a conscientious decision to come back here so that we could give our children a bilingual education. A British education. My wife is an American, so we could have moved to America, but we chose to stay here, and also so I could be close to my family. It was also at this time that I decided that I needed to do something a little bit more than just complain about what had happened to my country, and about the politicians, and about things that I was getting fed up with and didn't like. And so, I joined UKIP. And I decided that, maybe I should just explain this back. Like many people of my generation, my grandparents and great-grandfather, they told me tales of heroism and heroics and the wars that they fought in, and the defence of our country, the defence of our freedom. And as a young boy, I always wanted to join the army. And oh, how I wish to be able to be a soldier and fight in that country. Well, luckily, that never happened. But the truth of the matter is, I realised that this was my fight. This was my war. This is our war. It's not glorious. There's no bullets flying around. We're not going to win any medals in this. But it's a war nonetheless. It's something that we need to fight for what we believe in. And I truly do believe that. When I came back to Anglesey, I discovered that only one of my school friends was still living on the island. The reason being, there was no work here for the rest of them. They had to move to England, Australia, America, Canada, you name it. Everywhere, apart from where they actually wanted to be, and many of them still wish that they could return to Anglesey, but there's no work here for them. Since being home, I have seen the decimation of our local employers due to bad governance, red tape and EU rules. Anglesey Aluminium, Eton Electric, Peacock, Vinyl, Menai Electrical, Anglesey Country Foods, Welsh Country Foods. The list goes on, doesn't it? And it's not just those people who lost their jobs, but it's all the associated jobs that go with them. We've had a Labour government in Cardiff Bay now for the last 14 years, and a Labour MP for the last 12 years. A Plaid Cymru AM for the last 14 years, and the Liberal Democrats and Conservatives are in coalition in Westminster. Plaid and the Liberals have been in coalition in Cardiff Bay with Labour during this period also. We are now being told in this election that if we just vote for them all one more time, something will change. Things will get better. What's the definition of lunacy? Doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. We have we not, heard it all before? And I am sorry to say, but in 2 years' time, during the next Welsh Assembly elections, you will hear it all again. As a nation, Wales invests heavily in teaching our young people to speak Welsh. But as we all know, due to lack of jobs and future prospects, we see our children move away, often to England, where they lose the language skills that they have learned. My own nieces, who did their A-levels in Welsh, have left Wales, and now when they come back, they don't like to speak Welsh because they're so rusty with it, because they don't speak it anymore. Since the evolution, the Welsh Government in Cardiff Bay has managed to mismanage almost every devolved area. Our ambulance service, education and NHS have all declined terribly. Cardiff Bay has wasted millions on empire building, whilst our hospitals have declined and our services have deteriorated. £67 million on a glorified cafe in Cardiff Bay. Over £20 million on an office block in Llandudno Junction. If you say it fast enough, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, does it? But goodness me, that's a lot of teachers, it's a lot of doctors, and it's a step closer to sorting out the problems that we have with our NHS. In 1997, the cost of administering Wales was £17 million a year. By 2008-2009, this figure had risen to £346 million a year just on administration. That's your money. That's our money being spent in areas where we do not want it to be spent. Prior to my birth in 1973, my parents were represented by just one national representative, their local MP. Since that time, whilst the rest of us in the real world have seen our job numbers decrease by thousands in every single field as the service sector and each industry introduces new technology and more efficient working practices, our political class here in Wales has managed to increase its number tenfold. Our 1 MP therefore is expanded to 1 MP, 5 AMs, 4 MEPs. A grand total of 10 nationally elected politicians now do the work that prior to 1973 our MP used to do quite happily. Compare that with the experience of our workforce. Add the recently politicised creation of 4 Welsh police commissioners into the mix, and we can increase that number to 11 nationally or regionally elected politicians representing each and every one of you. Don't you feel special? Do any of us really feel that this massive increase in political representation has resulted in any appreciable improvement in efficiency or living standards? Statistics and personal experiences would suggest otherwise, wouldn't they? We now have politicians of all parties who will defend the institutions above defending the people that the institutions are there to serve. No one is asking the questions that we need answering. Why is it that Wales is performing worse since devolution? At the time of the creation of the Welsh Assembly, Wales had a GDP level of 79% of the rest of the UK. As part of the so-called devolution dividend, we were promised by those elected to the inaugural Welsh Assembly that this would rise to 90% within a few years. Recent figures indicate that we stand 15 years after the creation of the Assembly at just under 70% of the UK's average GDP. By anyone's standards, this is failure on a monumental scale. Why is it that when the people of Holyhead say, we do not want to lose the seafront on Newry Beach, the politicians locally and in Cardiff Bay disregard this and allow big business to take away this jewel that belongs to the whole town? Why is it that despite over 8,000 people on the island signing a petition against wind farms being built within 1 mile of dwellings, our politicians are carrying on regardless? UKIP has an answer to these and all contentious issues. We want binding local referenda. We will give the people a real voice and one that will be heard and acted upon. Far from being against devolution in Wales, UKIP actually is the party of devolution. Instead of powers centralised in Westminster, they have now simply been centralised to a new, inefficient tier to the political class in Cardiff Bay. Anglesey, it seems, is forgotten by our political masters. Here on the island, we have a long political tradition of going against the political classes. In your lifetimes, we have had politicians on the island of every political colour. The Welsh Government held back our local elections for 1 year in order to redefine the borders of the local boundaries and to basically make sure that the independents didn't get re-elected onto the council. What happened? 14 independents were re-elected onto the council. On Anglesey, we go against the grain. We always have been. UKIP fits in here. We have our own mind. We do our own thing. And we stand up for what we believe in. We have been accused of horrendous things. Things which I should point out are not true. But nonetheless, we are accused of racism and bigotry and all manner of different things. But I stand up for what I believe in, because I know and I believe that this country deserves much better than the deal that we are getting. With your vote and your support, We can turn Ynys Mon purple on August the 1st. Thank you very much.